Hello. Now is this working? There we go. I got it. Hello, hello. Cool. How is it going? Sorry. Rough double standard unless yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad someone did. Yeah. The one guy who didn't talk much at all, so I didn't consider him much of a threat, kept saying that there's evidence Biden was senile based on his stutter, which is just factually untrue. It is well documented. Biden has had that same stutter since he was like a little kid in elementary school. His teacher bullied him for it. It was bad. But this is like in interviews and stuff. Um, that super careful, high expectation where he needed to try harder to say anything and do anything pushed him to be more thoughtful and deliberate with everything he did. Like it made him work harder. And then by like his senior year of high school, he was like student president, which I think is great. Biden faces a lot of ableism over nothing, which is really, really, really sad. He stutters sometimes, but that's really it. There is no reason to believe that alone signifies anything else. He's always had that stutter. People haven't seen him stuttering much before because he wasn't president before. He didn't say nearly. He wasn't filmed as much. Not even close. So yeah, thank you for saying that. It was a really pathetic double standard. And the thing also, like when Clinton was impeached, it was because there was a reasonable suspicion or worry that people supposedly had in good faith that because he was caught lying about one thing under oath, it's like, oh, the pearl clutching. You know, what else could he be lying about? Can we trust him with anything? Because, what if he's lying because he already proved that he can? And that's why, like, we can never stand a president who would lie about anything. And they respond, like, even though this is silly and irrelevant, like, the next thing might not be. And we couldn't know. We could never know. And so that was, like, really rough. It was, like, a double standard kind of whole thing going on there. Um, yeah. So, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad to now see their whole Republican Party completely like backflip over like, nothing could be wrong unless they absolutely prove it from the people who have all of the means and the history and the motive to prove it, which is pretty pathetic. Thank you for subscribing, Keychain 595595. Thank you for everyone who subscribed. It's meant a lot. Yeah, so I want to keep reporting on the news and stuff. Um, yeah, I'm gonna like promote the little link, send the little link out. So give me a minute here. I can keep talking. I'm just gonna switch off my camera because my camera is connected to Discord and I want to throw the link in some Discord chats. So I'll be right back. But I'm right here. Testing, testing. Oh yeah, they were there, just be there? Absolutely, 100%. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. Um, yeah. So, let's see. I wanted to talk about the news a little bit, if that's all right. I wanted to take a look, see what else is happening. Um, what's funny is the whole Republican strategy from Steve Bannon is basically to lie about at least three things a day, do at least three horrible things a day, to overwhelm the media cycle. This is really bad. This is how Trump got his initial momentum um, in 2016. Like, this was the play. This was the playbook. And it was effective, right? It was easy to overwhelm traditional media cycles who were used to spending days or weeks on a controversy and suddenly not give them the time to do that or the bandwidth to do that. Oof, my stream display is not working. Certainly not how it should be. Hello. Okay. Um, sorry, 1 second. I want to make sure my display is working well. Sorry, I'm not super used to streaming here. I'm trying to get better at it. Um, let's see. Aha. So now if I do that, yes, this is working, okay? Yes, maybe? Just a little bit? Cool. Awesome. Yes, so I wanted to take a look at the news, like the actual news, and start to get ahead of this. So while Steve Bannon did have a successful playbook in like 2015 and just blast all media channels with at least like three bad stories a day, so luckily the people's technology, the people's voices have increased with things like social media. It is now possible to match or exceed that same level of BS. The problem is if you need a full like neoliberal Substack article breakdown responding to each individual bad news story, that's still going to take you far longer to do than it is to make up lies, right? But even on these basic like moral facts are wrong. And because Trump is getting old and lazy, I don't know if we can prove it's like dementia. I think he's always been king of the short bus here. He's getting lazy. He's getting bad. All of his claims are baseless on the face of it. They are bad on the face of it. It does not take much effort to criticize the Republican Party right now. And I wish more people were doing that and holding them to account. I am a firm believer that like they just need to be held accountable, and it's easy to do, and we can do it. I think we've seen leftists give Democrats a lot of hell over every single little thing, completely unaware of their own horribly racist and sexist biases when doing so. You've seen lots of leftist spaces. They end up with just a room full of white men who think they are the voice of all diversity, which is shameful. It's shameful. But they do successfully overwhelm any liberal or progressive or even other leftist creators' comments and DMs with not only threats, which are awful, and I do not support at all, but criticisms, many bad faith criticisms, some naive good faith criticisms, not reeling the system, the machine of harassment they're contributing to. That's way too much stuff to be held accountable to, and way too high a bar of perfection for any reasonable person. But Republicans get off scot-free. No one has called them out or held them to account in many, many, many years. This is part of their normalization efforts, and it's part of lots of people assuming they can never get through to Republicans, which for some is true, but not all of them, and then letting it go. And even if Republican politicians are certainly evil, they don't always see their own comment sections. Fox News broadcasters are not looking at Fox News comment sections, but other Americans are, even lots of other conservative Americans. They are in a media bubble, and even every comment section on one of those videos, there are real people looking at it, real voters, who are completely inundated with one-sided propaganda. If half of the same energy leftists bring to criticize and nitpick the Democratic Party was done to Republicans, lots of people would catch on, lots of people would see it. And even though we don't talk about it as much, these effects are there. And this blind spot is why corporations like Target take big swings thinking people want some right-wing nonsense. This is why American Eagle takes big swings thinking people want some right-wing nonsense. And even if the CEOs, the leaders of those companies, are just expressing what they feel, those are bad ideas. And most Americans don't like them. And they're weird. But normal people don't need all of their things like talked about or peacocked about all the time. So conservative ideas are very unpopular, but just not criticized or called out at all. So start doing that, and there is positive reception to it. There's a reason we have a few like talk show hosts who do pretty well for themselves. It's because they're kind of the only ones calling that out. People just need more of that anywhere, everywhere. I don't think that Donald Trump could handle getting canceled in the same way that like any woman on the internet is all the time, even by leftists. They're way too insecure. They're way too caught up in their own nonsense. They're not used to being held to account, and then they freak out. Elon Musk could not handle the heat. Elon Musk was the only person who got the heat in many, many, many years. So I want to start taking a look at the news and, stay informed, because you just calling out anything, there are some very good points to be made. Part of it is understanding how to talk to your audience, right? It's easy to criticize Republican policy for not being like good by the facts and the data and the science, and good for you. You can be a perfect little neoliberal nerd and write a whole book about how much you love trains. That's awesome. I love that for you. I think you're right, and that's a good idea. I don't think that's getting true to people who are voting for Trump because they think it's part of some moral imperative to make the world a better place. But I think those people do care a lot about the fact that they voted for Trump on the basis of bringing about some weird notion of world peace and justice and protecting children, just to find out that Trump's true allegiances are to the rich and powerful with money, who, much like him, were in Epstein circles. And that's why I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is starting to crack. I think at every opportunity, you should find the cracks in MAGA delusion and exploit them. Put some pressure. Ask the questions that are good questions to ask and no one's asking. There's a lot. Let's go to US. Right, Trump is met with mostly boos at US Open as security delays a match. Interestingly, this is the sports event where they broadcasting stations were told not to air the boos, to like censor them, which I think is shameful and bad and cringe, actually. I think there's, if free speech is free speech, people should say what they want, and we should ask why the media is trying to censor that, how people really feel. And if people like Trump, that would be fine, but why are they afraid of the truth there? And then why don't most people like Trump? Because we could talk about like, like the leftists, there's not that many of them. So why were more people booing him than cheering him? At a tennis event, which you need to be pretty well off to get to. A lot of confusion and chaos. Sad. Everywhere Trump goes. Confusion and chaos. Delayed the event by 30 minutes. So much for order. PBS, yes, the South Korea situation. So there's a Hyundai plant in Georgia where ICE went in and detained like 475 workers, most of them South Korean nationals, all right, who are there for good reason, right? It's like a deal with other countries to have them because Hyundai is not an American company. What is interesting about this is this is not just like ICE being, I don't know, like doing whatever they think they're doing, like to protect American jobs and interests. This is damaging global trade relations with a foreign country. And that deal that South Korea made to like have this plant in Georgia is put on the line because of this, right? Which threatens not only finishing building that plant, but then the continuation of running that plant and having all those jobs there for years to come in Georgia, which also entails investment in the surrounding area because those South Korean nationals have money and they want to spend it at local communities and local businesses. Georgia is a state that needs more investment and money and jobs. It's not just about giving handouts, it's about having jobs for people who work hard. Evangelical Christians care about that. They think there's a moral value in hard work. They can't do that if ICE is stopping construction of an American car plant, right? Isn't that the whole point of the tariff, supposedly? That we'd create American factories to make things ourselves? Why are they delaying that? These are South Korean nationals. They're there on a deal with Korea. Americans don't want to do those jobs, but even if they could, wouldn't it be more in American interests to finish the plant as fast as possible and get it up and running? Like, why are we messing around and delaying or putting at risk American job creation at investment in Georgia's economy? Georgia's a southern state. Lots of poor Republican voters down there. This is childish. Like, there was no oversight here. And what a federal government is supposed to do is have an eye on that big picture, right? On our alliances, on our security, on our stability, not rock the boat when you don't need to, and to make sure that the U.S. is respected by everyone good and feared by everyone bad. So why is he doing this? Why is he pissing off South Korea? What are the implications this has, right? Because even if ICE on its own and like little local operations would just be trying to do this in their local areas, this is where you should have someone from the federal government step in and say, hey, this is not like that. This has bigger, sweeping implications. Well, more than 300 South Korean workers detained and going to be released and brought home. That's a shame. That's going to delay the opening of an electrical vehicle plant in Georgia. Hundreds of federal agents raiding their manufacturing site. Hundreds? Is that efficient? If we're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse, which I thought these people cared about, why are they doing that? Like, is that efficient? Is that needed? Don't they have other places to be? Because it kind of feels like there isn't actually like a big sweeping immigration problem with like, undocumented immigrants they need to arrest everywhere, because they seem to all just be standing around like sitting on their ass, and then they just throw a bunch of people who've just been waiting around board at anything as soon as they find it. They don't seem to have their hands full. It seems performative. It seems like posturing. The same thing is happening in DC, where Trump is weaponizing the National Guard. Horrific. As a show of power and an extension of his own weird germophobia, an obsession with the space right around him. It's not about being tough on crime. If you wanted to deal with crime and high areas of crime, he would not be picking nice neighborhoods in DC. He'd be starting with red states, with small rural towns on the side of the road with no business or economic life in them, where like the only businesses are like a liquor store and a strip club, Like we're the towns that have all but died and there's just a few people left, people who are working hard and struggling to get by. Those are places that turn to crime, that turn to theft because they don't have any money, that turn to the fentanyl crisis in America. Trump doesn't seem to care about them. And if you cared about crime and you made practical priorities where you could do the most good, those are the kinds of things you'd prioritize. But instead, we have a whole circus trying to stop an American car company from being built. That's so weird. It's size, yeah. State officials have long called the targeted site Georgia's largest economic development project. This is Georgia's last hope, really. Like, this is an attempt to keep Georgia poor. And South Korea is a U.S. ally. Diplomats sent to the site. But that's sad. That's investment pulling out. That's workers pulling out. Workers who are creating workplaces for American workers to come in after them. Well, South Korea's not pulling out hard, but it's still delaying the whole construction schedule at the very least, if nothing else. Nothing is happening there. Is going to happen there. Um, yeah. Like, yeah, that's true. We know there's like real crime in America. There are victims of human trafficking. There's smuggling. Like, there's all these kinds of things that. Yeah, I think it would be so easy to win bipartisan points by solving actual problems. Why isn't he doing that? Yeah, that's it. It's Home Depots, yes. Which is how lots of his voters who are like the shitty white dudes in the suburbs who own a pavement princess Ford F-150. They're nice little driveways. They want to build a new deck and they don't know how to build a new deck. How are they going to do that now? I would be more sympathetic to arguments about people coming in the right way if you look into it, the right way wasn't any way feasible, which it's not. The immigration system is a disaster. It's basically like a hellish DMV where you can be waiting weeks, months to get anything. Like, there are people who want to come in the right way and they can't be seen the right way. And that is a business is breaking down. People are like doing other things. Like, that is a service. You can observe how this process is working externally, physically. Just bottom line, practically, it's not feasible. And if people were given a clear way in, they would follow those rules. The system is so bad, um, they would rather take their chances by coming in other ways. I think we should have some kind of like paperwork way, like digital paperwork on your phone or whatever, like a form. No matter where you are in the U.S. right now, if you want to be a citizen, take a test. We could do this so much better. Like, assume people everywhere. I don't know. We need people. We need workers. These are good things. There's no intent to like replace them. Yeah, literal years. Yeah, and then also ICE is arresting people from their hearings. These are people who are doing everything right and showing up when and where they're supposed to. Why is ICE camping out there? That's pathetic. What brand of glasses am I wearing? I have no idea what brand of glasses I am wearing, unfortunately. But I think the total disinterest in having a right way to come in speaks to the fact that it's all bad faith. It's just about attacking anyone, and like they're also just going after anyone. Excuse me. Excuse me. On the basis of perceived ethnicity, which is pathetic. Okay. Yeah. So we've looked at that. We've looked at that. The war on Chicago. It's a war on American citizens. This is truly pathetic. One of the most pathetic things he's done. Also, before the election, Kamala Harris was saying that Trump wanted to mobilize the military against American citizens, and she was made fun of and called a liar by mainstream media. Similar to how Hillary Clinton said that Trump wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. He was going to get in and he's going to appoint a judge specifically to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think it's important to know that and to remember that mainstream media companies are incentivized, not only the political and specifically of their backers, but also towards controversy instead of truth, and to also the biases of the average American, which are misogynistic and racist. They were not given the benefit of the doubt, and neither Kamala Harris nor Hillary Clinton were hyperbolizing anything. Neither of them were exaggerating. Neither of them were making anything up. They were making very serious predictions, which have come to pass. Which is pathetic. Really, really pathetic. I want to do a stream soon about Gamergate, because I think it's important. I have a really good book recommendation related to all that. A judge ruled last week that it violated federal law. This is when he was in LA. I'm not sure what the differences are between LA and okay, that ruling only applied to California. Gotcha. So he's attacking different American cities to threaten areas where he perceives opposition to be with such a frequency that and one at a time, so it gets overturned and then he can target somewhere else. And even though it's wrong, they have to try it from scratch. Thank you. Yeah. No, we need like some, yeah, right? Because like leftists, I think, sometimes can raise legitimate criticisms to the Democratic establishment. But the fact that they only do that and don't provide alternatives or any support or like any positive messaging for anything else shows like, they're not giving constructive criticism. They're just trying to tear down and wear down support. And I just think, even if there is some value there in holding people to account, why are no one why is no one else being held to account in that same way? And that's what I went to see. The Hassan Destiny Voss triangle. Hello. Yeah. With Hassan Piker, I think he's lazy and doesn't seem to really care. And I think it's sad that he's built not only his own like rhetorical habit, but in all of his followers as well, a priority to go and defend him in comments when anyone says like he could be doing more. Of like their top priority isn't criticizing the fascist Republicans or anything like that. Like they will turn out in droves to. It's very parasocial. It's very teenager. Defend and justify him not doing more, or they as his audience not doing more, which is really sad. Or sometimes it points back to like, oh, maybe he did like door knocking once or like donated some money, which is like great. Like that's what anyone could do or any like person with money could do. I just think with such a large audience of noble progressive minded goals, they could do more and think bigger and do better. Like we got to shoot higher. I think good enough thinking is really sad. And they can see that Democrats aren't good enough, but they think they themselves aren't good enough when they haven't like won any power. And you know what? If they want to call this the revolution, cool, fine. Make it the revolution of the Democratic Party, okay? If you see a really ineffective Democrat, you can run against them in the next primary. That's always allowed. Like, look up the rules, do paperwork, go for it. And if you are better, like, convince them, right? And if you can't convince them and win that, it's a question of why. Was it just, like, funding and backers? Could you win over some of those funders and backers for the greater good? Does your messaging appeal to people? Why or why not? Can you improve your messaging? And I think it's very easy to criticize and to critique. It is much harder to create. But I wish leftists believed in themselves more. Because I think they should give it a serious chance. And I think it's a great tragedy of the online space that, like, the biggest streamer who has, like, a whole monopoly of her whole platform pretty much is primarily dedicated to just kind of cashing that check and, like, sitting back. And, like, when people have, like, run up to him on the street and said, like, hey, you're drinking, like, Pepsi or whatever because it's, like, against this, like, boycott, you shouldn't do that. The kind of boycott and thinking that, like, he inspired his audience to take up. He seems kind of, like, resentful. Raise it off as, like, crazy instead of taking some responsibility for that. I don't know. I think that's that. Like, they believe this stuff because of him. And I think online creators have a responsibility knowing that they are there. They are built on the back of people, usually young people, who care about politics, about something good happening, which is important, and to take that electricity, that potential. You have a whole audience of people who care and want the world to be better and want the government to be better, and they're listening to you and will do what you say. And then to kind of throw that away, to ask nothing of them more than to, like, buy a Twitch subscription to you just feels like it breaks my heart. It really does. I think that's a little shameful. And I wish more, like, streamers took accountability for that. Like, they knew, right? If you just want to be, like, an entertainment streamer, just be an entertainment streamer. But they know that their target audience is there and give them money because they are motivated to do something good and do the right thing. And they think that giving them money is doing that. Everyone has some, like, personal gain, but even if you give someone money, like, are you giving them money to afford them more time to do something good or to kind of do nothing. And I think also sounds kind of like so like lazy with it, and is let an audience be so lazy with it that like he has a negative domino PR effect on marginalized groups around him. Because if he doesn't care and is sloppy with it, that like you're when you're a political creator and you're talking about real issues, you're kind of playing with live ammo a little bit. Like there's real stakes here. If you just want to have like bad whatever opinions that might reflect negatively on things, you can talk about a video game or like a movie or a show at any time, and that won't have the same effect. Yeah, so I really don't like what Hassan is doing. I think it's bad for a lot of people, or at least it's not good, and it could be better. I know his audience has a lot to say that hey, like maybe Democrats be better, maybe they could do more. And I think there's a hypocrisy in the way they don't seem to believe that they themselves can, and I believe they can, and I think that's why I'm upset because like I know this could be more. I think it's a problem with all three streamers, frankly. Most of all, Vosh by a mile, though, is like empowering the misogyny in the way they do. They really, really do. It's like not only are they not giving back and helping causes, they are creating misogynistic momentum in a way that's really sad. And I think that like honestly requires some more female moderators who touch grass and have some more like lived experience in that way. To just be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, this is not a way you can talk about people or talk to people. Hassan's chat is wildly unmoderated. Vosh actively is misogynistic and creates huge rallying cries towards that. And like, gosh, for a few years, it's like told J.K. Rowling to shut the fuck up. Like, women should just shut the fuck up, which is like awful. Like, so that's an awful thing to say. And like, what example are you setting, and what are people learning from? And because like a long consistent history of stuff like that, and like, I think lots of like hard leftism, because it writes itself off as like morally good or like for the people, like those kinds of ideas theoretically, they end up thinking I'm a good person, I can't do bad things, and then lose track and lose that humility and lose that self-awareness in terms of like what are you saying and doing, and how does that affect all these different kinds of people. I think it's really sad that also like lots of leftist spaces, not as much the liberal ones, but the leftist ones, joke a lot about like trans inclusive misogyny, which is really bad misogyny in the same way that like patriarchal like spaces with just basic straight cis people who are like like Republican small town bars can be misogynistic, and like they will hate on women except like, oh, like she's one of the boys, and like there's like one woman who transparent births, like whoa, like and you can also say, oh, I hate women, and they're like, yeah, and they cheer her on. It's that kind of thing, and that exists on the left too, and that's really sad because it's like pitting women against women, right? Like they receive respect and validity in those communities by being against other women and denouncing femininity, and like I think that's really sad, and those are weird keys to jingle over someone, especially like trans women who are a little more desperate for that. And I wish those spaces took more responsibility in stopping that kind of behavior, because it's not just a joke. It's not just a joke. And I think someone like J.K. Rowling gets a lot of valid ammo that she does not deserve. And it's like there are ways to criticize J.K. Rowling without creating conditions where like more just average women not engaged with any issues could see that and think, wow, I'm on J.K. Rowling's side about this. And like that's just sloppy activism, right? Like that's kind of throwing women under the bus. He seems to have issues with a lot of women consistently. Like there's repeated patterns, and I don't engage with that shit. Yeah, but like all leftists kind of seem to have those problems. Oh yeah, yeah. I'd love to have a monetization button, but I'm just not at the creator level yet on my website. You can donate to me if you want. I also have like a hat because I feel bad about just like, I get a smaller margin from the hat, but I want people to have the chance to get something back if they want. But I have a donate section below that. Yeah, lots of tankies and leftists. Like, I think there's some bad faith leftists. This is not all leftists. This is a minority of leftists. But I think they're hiding their power level, and they manipulate a wider realm of leftists. Tend to be like white boys whose only personal claim to like serious oppression Well, usually they tend to be like bisexual or pansexual. So like that is, there is biphobia and panphobia is real, but in the more sense of like, they like beauty standard fulfilling women, and then like a femboy who's also meets the feminine beauty standard. So it's like, okay, and it's all like from their couch. So they have some claim like that, or maybe some like, yeah, like some moderate claim to queerness, but that's not like visible queerness, and are otherwise just like white men who see the main focus of leftism is like class issues and try to make everything about that. And this is bigger than the ones who just say they're tankies. I think the tankies are just more honest about it. Some others might not realize it, or they may purposely be hiding it to blend into larger leftisms. They can have a bigger influence. And I think that's a big, big, big problem, because they end up like really misogynistic and racist right away. And they'll analyze things like Trump winning in 2016 as like, oh, like the leftists just should have been economically populist. Like the Democrats should have been economically populist and go with Bernie. And that was it. And completely discounted the main reason Trump did win in 2016, which was a electrifying evangelical religious faith-based hatred of black people, and based on that a desire to get revenge on Obama and Democrats and anyone who supported them, by coming out of the closet as racist, and that sense of the kind of like weird ingrained belief of like they think like forced diversity or like DEI or SJW, keep changing the fucking words, is kind of bonkers there. Like they felt it wasn't fair or deserved, and they were restoring like a rightful order. And like so many leftists are just like, it's just about class issues. Like that's not enough. Like that's so privileged and removed from the realities of American culture and stuff like that. I think American workers deserve more support too, but a lot of American workers are still racist and will even like vote against their own class interests, as we've seen in 2024, to, afford the racism. Thank you for the tip, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, and like the Middle Eastern conflict. Yeah, it's. Oh yeah, I love the abundance stuff. I think the abundance book was released assuming there was about to be a Kamala win, and it's like, hey, this is what Democrats should do. I think Democratic messaging does need to change, mainly, honestly, focusing more on positives than negatives, especially in themselves. I think any social critique and like intersectionalism is super valid. I think a lot of the white college educated young people who get to learn about that and are fortunate enough to learn about all of that and to have the book reading lists and the experience and the perspective to learn about that do a embarrassingly bad job explaining that, such that it's now had a negative, huge backfire on acceptance of all minority groups. I think trans rights were like the left's to lose, and it's really sad to see them doing that. And then left is saying we shouldn't focus on that. Like some liberals even saying we shouldn't focus. That's stupid. You can support LGBT rights in full. You can support Black rights in full. Yeah. So I think abundance, like a stronger economic benefit for all vision, is great. I don't think we need to abandon social issues. I think we need to get smarter at talking about that. We need to let actual people from these groups talk about themselves. And be real. I don't think a lot of basic white people understand like what privilege is. I can speak to gender because I'm a woman and I'm a lesbian and I'm disabled, which still I'm pretty fucking fortunate by American standards. Privilege is way more nebulous and not as absolute as they would think. The main thing I could think of is that in any given space, and you can even see that if you like panel shows, and white privilege is more about the stuff you take for granted, and that invisible stuff we just assume is the norm. That's not actually true for everyone. I feel like a lot of men, even on panel shows, if they have something to say, they will say it. If a thought occurs to them, if they want to say something, they will say it, which sounds pretty straightforward. That's like I'm not ascribing hostility to any of that. Women do not have that same ease of access. Women will be judged more. Women have to justify like I could say this, I would want to say this, but is this worth it to the conversation? A lot of the time. Am I qualified enough to speak about this? Do I need to say this right now? And even those kind of little biases, right? Because men will speak over women, like women have to prove it, that it's worth it, and justify it, rather than just be. And that taking for granted, it's like those are the kinds of patterns we see with privilege. It's not that like you a positive ability. It's more just like something that should be like such an obvious basic thing is taken for granted by one group of people, and they don't even realize like how bad it is to not have that kind of thing. I think the concept of police is fantastic. I think, and it sucks. No one's ever going to like the police because no one ever likes, the teacher or the parent, right? Like to have some, like, hey, you can't do the thing that's bad, and we need some people to just like even monopolize force a little bit and then enforce some laws and stop criminals. That is a great thing to be taken for granted. White spaces and like diverse spaces have completely different discussions of that, and I think it's wild and unacceptably bad, and no one could talk about this enough. That like why it's an awful choice that many Americans need to have between like just letting crime happen and not reporting it, or like you could get seriously hurt, or even killed like by police who would not be punished, and you could even be like made an example of by like horrible racist media spheres. That's terrifying. You need help, but you can't trust those people to help you. That's terrifying. I think like that's just like that is a huge like fortunate thing that white people have that you just don't otherwise. It's upsetting. Like people are living in different worlds, and any of the basic realities of like what conversations about privilege and bigotry are like about have not at all gotten through, and the people who try to be loud and obnoxious about it do a bad job. LGBT rights is a really huge example. Feminism is a really huge example. Like Anita Sarkeesian did not know her audience and bumbled basic feminist 101 talking points such that it created a backlash bigger than the positive change she set out to make. I think she should have some responsibility for that. I think not all responsibility is hers to bear, and I think there's a huge double standard of accountability where women are held way more accountable for things like that. Trans rights also, like, especially like leftists a lot, just like straight up threatening people with violence. And kind of J.K. Rowling did not have a good point when she started, but that did not stop leftists from substantiating her unreasonable concerns. I love the abundance stuff. I don't think we have a totally like thorough understanding of the pros and cons because we need to try it out. At what point are regulations impeding our ability to build? I think is a good question. What are the pros and cons? Is the world better off or not? I just think Democrat policy in general, it's not even to say we need to necessarily give up on regulations or change what we're doing, has failed to connect the rhetoric and policy goals to results and outcome. So maybe abundance in part is in terms of like do more stuff, change the way we're doing stuff, but also change how we talk about and give ourselves credit for what we've already done. Democrats spend so much mental energy apologizing and fussing over what we don't do perfectly, or we could have done more, we could have done enough, which is very sweet. I think it comes from a good place, but it's weak. And I think we are talking with another party of people who have many times below average intelligence, who struggle with analysis, with metaphor, with hypotheticals, with long-term indirect things and connecting dots. I think, honestly, slapping Joe Biden's name on the side of every bridge that was built would have helped. And what's sad is I've noticed even lots of the infrastructure Joe Biden funded, Donald Trump started putting up signs with his name on it right next to it. And that's to average people who are completely disconnected. They will see that and they'll connect those dots. So yeah, I think abundance is one, we need to do more, and two, we need to take credit for the stuff we do because it is already a lot. I think a lot of leftists emotionally care about Palestine, which is nice, in the same way that evangelicals care about fetuses. I want to see them put their money and their actions where their mouth is. Here's the thing, to any like leftists who really want to care about Palestine, the Republican Party right now wants to destroy native Palestinians as broadly and as quickly as they can. People are dying. There's a famine now. And you could do something about it. You do not have to like everything the Democratic Party does. They do support Palestinian rights. But in the midterms, I think if some leftists started voting for Democrats, especially in places where Republicans were in power in the Senate and Congress, it would split Congress and the Senate such that any bills that would destroy Palestinian lives, any actions that would need congressional approval, could not pass. Right now, Donald Trump has a free pass to do whatever fascism he wants. If you think Democrats are ineffective and don't get things done, good. Put more of them in the room, because they could stop a lot of bad from happening. Currently, you don't have to like Gavin Newsom. Even if you find someone better, which, good luck to you. I hope you do. I will support the best available option and replace that option when better ones come up. I don't know if Palestinians are going to survive until 2028 unless we do something in the midterms. So, if you think that Democrats do nothing and sabotage, I think you have a lot to gain from at least showing up to the midterms and voting blue, even if you don't like to. It's not about liking Democrats, it's about it would save Palestinian lives. It really, really would. And then even if AIPAC did try to maintain its dominance, they would have to then pay off a lot more people, a lot more, to maintain that hold, and they would burn through their funds and be weaker in 2028. Like, seriously. I am interested in doing more debates. Absolutely. I'd like to do that on future days. I'm a little burnt out now. Kind of regularly, pick topics or whatever. I'm hoping to grow on TikTok so I can go live on TikTok. I think would be great. I think I need like 1,000 subs or something. So please follow me on TikTok if you have TikTok. I know a lot of people don't. That's okay. And I'll also set up a Discord server or something so I can invade on YouTube. But on TikTok, I could just straight up invite people to the stream. It'd be way smoother. There's like way more passive coming by viewership there. I could get out of the echo chamber a bit more. YouTube's algorithm is a bit more outdated, so it's easier to just find people who agree with you. Taylor Lorenz is a registered Republican. A lot of the people defending her seem a lot like her, like very white and comfortable. Taylor Lorenz has some very nice things to say about some very not nice groups of people, about conservatives who she parties with, about Yahtzees who she has received a warmer invitation from than the DSA and socialists. And if she thinks that, like, even if there is some value, like, oh, we need to be nice, like the Yahtzees are nice, the Yahtzees are not nice to everybody. And I don't think she's at all aware of why they're nice to her. And I don't think she's taken accountability for that at all. Like, that just, I don't think it's occurred to her, right? Like, that's the thing of privilege. You don't notice it until you don't have it. I think Taylor Lorenz's article dropped at a shockingly convenient time. Were someone intentionally trying to release an article to undermine the start of left unity and progress and an alternative and a response. After months of kind of cluelessly fumbling, we're starting to see some energy coalesce around Gavin Newsom and just being pissed of just, we need to do something about this. I've seen from a lot of leftists, like, we're getting some good progress there. And then her article dropped. Even the way that Taylor Lorenz has responded to people, she was willing to talk to Destiny, who is a white man with clout she could chase and bottom feed off of. She has been very hostile and taken a very not nice tone with any creators of color, marginalized creators, non-men creators. And I think that's suspicious. And I don't know if she's doing that on purpose. But yeah. So I don't know. She can do her thing over there, but oh fuck. I am gonna have to stream about Gamergate soon. I think Taylor Lorenz is sparking another wave of that. I have seen several creators on TikTok and stuff, especially women, especially people of color, especially women of color, start to get pushback in their comments and doubts and skepticism of who's paying you for this? Is Chorus paying you for this? Even targeted at creators who are not part of Chorus. What she has done has like written a blank check to anyone, especially people who think they're progressive, to undermine and not listen to and write off as unqualified or bought out the opinions of anyone with a progressive voice that they don't agree with. And that is not going to hit everyone equally. People are going to apply that bias on top of like their already racist, sexist biases and think, something doesn't feel right here. I knew it, or I think it's this. And I think that's hurting a lot of people, and it's bad. Like it's one thing to like say something bad about someone. It's another thing to create precedent where like you don't even have to listen to them. You can write them off. I think Taylor Lorenz has kind of unleashed the left equivalent of calling someone a DEI hire, or forced diversity, as it was known before that. And people don't like that. People may disagree with that, but look at the kinds of people who support her and look at the kinds of people who feel she has harmed them. And demographically, I think there's a big problem. In terms of like practicality, I think there's a big problem. I think dark money is a dog whistle, and I think she knows that. She is too smart and has been doing this for too long to play dumb. And I think she knows the consequences her actions have. And I think that's sad. There's a few reasons why she may have done what she did. The first is like she's honestly a crypto-fascist, which would not surprise me based on her historical affiliations and her voter registration, but isn't consistent with all of her actions. The second is just a raw like profit motive, like she's trying to eliminate anyone who would be being built up right now. Because what Course actually does is it pays creators different amounts of money, but like I think the highest we've seen is like $8K a month, which is like $96K, I think, just the math in my head, which is like pretty good living. That's not like extremely wealthy or anything, but you know, effectively a living wage. I'm sure smaller creators get less, but still something to keep doing what they're doing. That's not money to control their messaging, which would cost way more. Like you have to invest in some, you know, some people to study the issues and then write scripts about the issues and then pass them off, and you know, testing all that. Like there's no reason for Course to do that. It's financially way better for Course to be like, look, the left has bumbled a lot of messaging. Let's find the creators who are like onto something and just give them money to keep doing what they're doing. And then they also seem to give them like, here's some news updates if you want to use this, just to take some time out of the research that they would need. And then also here's some like technical trainings on like how to do a live stream on different platforms, or like here's some tips for thumbnails that work that we just learned that like anyone could figure out on their own, but it speeds them along. It's Course is an incubator program that builds up those smaller creators so they can like have the best information and the best tech and some of the best know-how and the money to keep doing it and the time to keep doing it, like afford to take more time to do what they like doing and is already working, which is smart and it's good. Thank you for subscribing. I think that's awesome. And I think as someone who already can afford to take the time to do all this all the time and makes money doing it, and has a lot of attention and a pretty big audience, and has all of the technical and even like savvy, you know, best thumbnail practices like type know-how after years of doing this, I think Chorus creates people who, if Taylor Lorenz is just self-interested, would be competent, capable competition. And I think a very valid outcome of her article would be sabotaging that competition kind of in the crib. Like moderate creators like lose their audiences, they lose their audience's trust and viewership, they lose subscribers. And then even creators who are like getting there, getting bigger, getting on the ground, like it stops them from being built up in the same way. which, if she got her bag, it stops anyone else from, it keeps that space small. I think that's pretty sad. What are the other reasons she might be doing what she's doing? It would be like a psyop, even if it's like paid to kind of sell out briefly. There is plentiful external political motive right now to buy someone off, even if they don't personally agree with it, if they don't care enough to like stand by their values, so they don't care who gets hurt in the process. This is like what a psyop would do. I'm not saying she is. I'm saying this is what a psyop would do, which would be sad because if she believed in it, like that's basically doing a psyop's work for free. I don't know. I think that's kind of sad. But the last reason Taylor Rance is probably doing what she's doing is literally similarly like not caring who gets her in the process, but not out of money per se, but petty spite. I know she's made some comments where like she's found the other creators that are in chorus or like those circles of people have been in group chats talking without her, and they don't like her, and she feels left out and kind of scorned, and made some comments, like in your liberal group chats or whatever. It seems to be trying to damage them, which is really sad. But like Mean Girls type drama, like you don't like me, so I'm going to ruin you. Like when what's on the line here is, let's be very clear, faith in any progressive voices, especially minority voices, to say anything about the news or to push back against the fascist regime. And to put like her petty drama over that is really, really sad if that's the case. That's very pathetic, but she's insulated from the consequences either way. Some people may end up in camps, but she'll end up invited to the special parties at the inauguration. That's just a fact. She was literally invited to a party. Thank you. I don't have a background in government. I have a background in design and like management. So I like trying to understand and care how people think and how we can get certain outcomes. The debate went pretty well. Hey, Corbin. Yeah, the debate went pretty well. It was kind of boring, like, which is fine. Like if you were fighting against like in an RPG, like a little slime with like 5 HP, it doesn't really matter like how big or cool of a swing you could do. Like it's gonna be enough anyway. Like that's kind of vibe. Like it was didn't really do much. Thank you, Sonic Maria. Spite in the guise of progressivism. I agree with that. And that's the thing, right? Like, I will give Taylor Rance credit. She's smart and capable enough to know what she's doing and why. She can execute something very well. The question is why, and is it a good reason? And what are the consequences? Yeah, so here's the thing. A lot of people get pulled into, like, leftist pipelines, and it's because they care about what's good and doing the right thing. A lot of times, here's how it goes. Your parents may be, like, moderate Democrats who, like, casually like Obama or Hillary, or, like, maybe your parents and family upbringing is conservative. And, sorry. Then you get older, you start getting online, and you start asking questions, which is good. And maybe you go to college, and you learn some more things in classes. And you think, my God, I was wrong about stuff. I'm learning about people other than myself, maybe for the first time. And I wanted to do the right thing. I grew up wanting to do the right thing. I thought my parents wanted to do the right thing. And I'm learning I was kind of lied to and betrayed a little bit. And I care, and I want to be good, and I want to do right, and I have a lot to make up for. And there's a lot of ways I can be better. And I like that desire for goodness, I think is great. That's noble. A lot of the leftist trap happens when it turns kind of toxic. And this is not like deliberate or hateful at all. It's just kind of like audience capture and pipelining. In the same way like fandom is, where it kind of becomes obsessive and then gets toxic. I kind of think that like older moms have it right. Like just be kind, help people. I think that's really good. I don't think it's effective penetrative messaging, but they're doing things for the right reasons. It's not about credit. It's not about personal gain. It's about like be kind. Even a lot of like neoliberals be like, oh, statistically, I could be born as anyone or anything could happen to me, so I want to minimize the odds of bad things happening. I don't think a lot of like liberal moms care if anything bad ever happens to them. They just don't like the idea that something bad could happen to someone else, and I think that's enough. And I think it's noble. That is enough for them. A lot of leftists get obsessed with this idea of like chasing purity on a hamster wheel, and it becomes less about necessarily doing good things for other people, more about being good personally, like knowing the right things. And so it's, you can see even old writers, like old men with the Enlightenment and stuff, thinking like this, talking like this. We'd have like, lots of white noblemen who we considered the leaders of the Enlightenment, who had enough privilege to get by, to do whatever they wanted, to learn stuff. And that's when they focus on things like self-fulfillment and curiosity and self-actualization. And so they would start learning about like history and politics and theory and philosophy. And that's what a liberal arts education was. It's what they believed, that this is the kind of range of stuff that any free person, so like liberal, like liberated person should know. And that's what we should strive to have. Like it's just a good thing for fulfillment. And that's great. And that's what a lot of leftism is. But what they don't see is then they get so obsessed, like wrapping up in their own sense of purity. And they may even in good faith criticize the Democratic Party if they just think like they want them to be good or they are the good guys, need to do better. Like, no, you forgot about this other thing. Here, I'm going to tell you this so you can be more perfect. Tumblr does this, like Tumblr discourse is all this. Of this micromanaging, reflecting like philosophical discourse with the goal of like, how can I be good and not problematic? They don't understand that everyone is a little problematic. Like perfection does not exist. It's an unfair bar. And it's don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Bad people can do something good and should do something good, even if it doesn't benefit them. Because that puts more good in the world. And so like leftists end up like, I can't do things until I'm perfect yet, which stops them from ever doing things. And that's sad. That's really, really sad. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, so that thing is vaping a lot, yeah. These are Republicans. Yeah. Staying clear of audience capture and managing choice vote. Exactly. Because like there are some philosophical issues where there is not a clear, one-sided right way to do it. It just is. Like that's how it is. Which is sad. It's hard. And so what you end up with is like lots of groups who can find different good reasons to end up at different outcomes and then just stick on that. And they create rooms of only people like themselves. Which is great if you want to select for like ideological homogeneity, but you've kind of walked yourself out of even convincing other people that you're right. Like if you care about your ideas, you know, you need other people to at least listen to you, and they can't usually handle that. And I think that's bad because, I don't know, I like my ideas to be good, and I need to stress test them in order to do that. It's good to read books on both sides. If you wanted to learn about an issue, I think it would be really good to read books on both sides of that issue. And yes, one of them may be like bad paid propaganda and schlock, but you do that so you can learn like, okay, here are what other people are saying. And then if you see other things saying like, oh, that book is bad, don't listen to it, you know why. You know what it is, and what are the kinds of points people need to be paid off to say, and how is that skewed? Why? Like, I think that gives a richer, fuller understanding of anything. One thing I've been doing lately, and I think is super valuable, I've been looking at the conservative subreddit. I look at all the different subreddits, because that gives me a perspective of like, what news is getting through to the other side, and then how do they feel about it? Because even a lot of conservatives right now, they do feel a sense of duty to like shut up and fall in line publicly, but amongst themselves, they don't let anyone outside of their echo chamber post there at all or comment, so I can't interact directly. But they have doubts, and they express them and talk about them. Trump's executive order trying to criminalize flag burning, which is unconstitutional, by the way. Like, you have the constitutional free speech right to burn flags. A lot of conservatives know you have that free speech right. And it's a very good concern to raise that, like, hey, even without the approval of Congress, and certainly not the support of the courts or the Constitution, letting anyone politician with a pen decide you're a criminal for saying something is bad. It's scary. That is a slippery slope. And that's not precedent they want to extend to any other president, even if they like all the actions of this president specifically. We have constitutional rights for a reason. So, like, yeah, please, like, stay out of your echo chambers, learn more, convince more people, because, like, other people you think disagree with you might have some common concerns with you, even if you don't think. Also, it helps you humanize other people. Like, I think in general, people are at least decent at drawing conclusions and output based on the input they are given access to. And you can also then tell what are the really big deal issues that your opposition doesn't even know about. I think it's a lot of things. I think a lot of Republicans agree we should release all of the Epstein files uncensored in full. I think that's a very obvious layup W. But those aren't even like headlines. They don't know that's happening. You could tell them for the first time. We let them have an echo chamber and they're like shocked that they believe different things than us. Yeah, I would like to debate way more. I think it's fun. I will be doing like dedicated debate streams starting tomorrow. I'm like kind of chill out right now. I'm also hoping to get enough following to start doing debate streams on TikTok. I think that's where it'll have the most reach impact. But I'd be open to doing it on YouTube. I need to set up a server, like a Discord server at least, though, to do it through YouTube. On TikTok, people could join the stream directly. Debating is fun. I used to do it for several years. Here's the thing. I was in like a kind of debate Discord many years ago. And I'm just like, ew, you know, just dorky little girl. I ended up building a reputation as like the breaker. Like people would specifically like ping me in DMs like random times a day if there was like some really obnoxious fascist, because I kind of became known as the person who could like make them cry. I did that all like anonymously though. That was like many years ago. So I'm getting back into it. It's like kind of toxic, but I'm indulging because I think we're at an important turning point right now in politics. And I think with creators like Taylor Lorenz bodying the only thing that's working about the left right now, we need more voices and more people being held to account. And I can do that, and I like doing that. And I love it. Like whatever, I'm going to let people do that and trust them to do that. Leftists ended up dominating the space. Harassing any women or minorities in the space, ended up turning on each other for not matching their ideological perfection, collapsing that space. A new space formed on TikTok, immediately bought into like fully Russian incentivized propaganda to make them all focus on Israel-Palestine as a way of not supporting Democrats who would actually do something about it, and then end up achieving nothing there also. So I keep like I kind of watch the world get destroyed and then rebuilt and then destroyed again, and then like still nothing to show for it positive. I'm like, okay, I think I should roll up my sleeves and get back in. Because yeah, it's, I don't know. And I've been going down a career of like design since, right? Management, which is a lot of like psychology, understanding like marketing, graphic design, all that kind of stuff, like all the those kind of skills of what people will do, how they will engage with a thing, and why, and what outcome does that give, and why, and getting to like learning how to shut up and observe and listen and learn, and then like do something more deliberately to stand better odds of getting a desired outcome is such an important skill set. And design, really, like that core thought process, is medium neutral. So I'm sorry, I know earlier tonight at the debate there were some issues with my push to talk command not working because I have a chronic illness. I have a cough, so I didn't want to have my microphone on the whole time, and so my stream cut out sometimes. That's something I learned about, right? So I can fix that next time, and just learning to be deliberate and tactical and find what works and not do what doesn't work, which sounds very simple, but I don't know, iteration. It's good. So I'm sorry, I'm engaging in a toxic hobby again, but I don't know. And I'll get more structure to these streams. I'll get better at announcing times to do them more regularly upon. But expect for the next like couple weeks to have some kind of random I want to talk about this kind of thing, or like I'm studying this kind of thing type streams. Yeah, tactical cough, true. Maybe even some debate streams. I'd love to do that. And maybe I'll make more formal video essays at some point. It just feels like a lot of work for the returns in a way that like I don't think is good for my like work life balance or like mental health. I've considered stuff like that before. Um, Maybe just having the same like kind of ideas and getting to talk about them repeatedly, casually, live streams is good. I hope it is. Maybe I'll like do stream clips or something. I don't know. I'm kind of ranting and rambling, so tonight I'll just leave up this VOD, but hopefully that's good. Also, I'm sorry. I don't know if this showed publicly. I was having some tech issues. I ended my stream after the debate, and I was like, "Well, maybe I should stream again." People are telling me I should keep streaming, so I tried a couple times to like start and stop the stream, and it was embarrassing and bad. So there may just be like several like 2 second VODs of me just like staring at the camera, confused and coughing or whatever. That's what that's about. But yeah, I'll clean up. I'll get it together. We'll get more formal. It's better to like do it bad and do it now, and then learn from that and try again, than to not do it at all. Some things I definitely want to talk about in the future are like Gamergate and its consequences. I wish I was more informed to talk about like the anti-Semitism stuff. Um, it's really sad to see like a noble cause like, hey, maybe people in Palestine shouldn't die, like devolve into like a soccer game is shameful. And like fall for like clear anti-Semitic psyops, like worming their way in at every step of the way is really sad. Thank you for the tip. Thank you, someone. Um, yeah, so like those are kind of things that's a bit of my wheelhouse because like I'm not Jewish or Palestinian, obviously, but those are important things. But like I think Gamergate is like a similar enough parallel, weirdly, that I could really talk about that because that's like my field. I know like design, I know tech, I know internet culture, I know games, I know feminism. I read books. No one reads books anymore. Why don't they read books? Books are good. You can listen to audiobooks while you play video games, which I'm not gonna like keep reading books. If you like playing video games and that's a habit you're in, like honestly, try listening to audiobooks while you play games. Like you will start to learn more without having to give up like where your dopamine's at. But yeah, like Gamergate was kind of a big instance where a lot of young people on the internet were weaponized by a bad faith like political movement under like different motives of varying good faith to a very political end. And like that rolled into maggot, rolled into everything. And now you have like literally like the way that mainstream Republican elites are posting on like Twitter. If they're just trying to do a Gamergate like a decade late. Because in the same way, like movies will have like outdated, cringe millennial jokes because like they, those people were in those spaces and then grew up and then started doing that job and they don't know what's cool right now. We're seeing this like delayed response Gamergate pushback, which is weird. It's so weird. These people should be made fun of. Incels, I'd also love to talk about. Any kind of feminist issues like that. Like I think it's also probably important for like a woman to talk about some of these things, but also like a woman who's not just going to be like, oh, too bad, so sad, and like ignore it. Like actually, I don't know. I try to know what I'm talking about and like actually explain my reasons and things. I think Natalie Wynn ContraPoints has done a great job talking about some of these topics and like actually leveling with where her audience is at is I think an important first step. I bet every single one of you in your school or whatever have been told like to know your audience. Um, no one actually knows their audience. Like that, they were not just saying that. It actually matters, and it's weird. Like I will talk about politics differently with like an evangelical Christian versus like a dorky, study loving neoliberal. And everyone else just keeps doing the same thing or doing what appeals to themselves to talk to other people, and then are like shocked Pikachu face when it doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, what were you expecting? I think a lot of people on the left are like far too willing to demonize Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is basically a like Joe Rogan wants one thing, which is to be a gorilla. Joe Rogan's like mental way of operating, he's been through a lot, you know, I don't know, he's a fighter and stuff, like he's very casual. He just wants to smoke weed. Joe Rogan, I think, is somewhat, in many times innocently, way too trusting of the most recent person he talked to. And he's like, whoa, that's super cool. And the same way like a little kid will be like, did you know? And then just repeat something that like their teacher or like their friend or their grandpa told them like 10 minutes ago, even if it was a lie because they thought it was funny. And they just like have that full faith. Like, I don't know. I think Joe Rogan like screwing over Kamala Harris was bad. I think a lot of times Joe Rogan is earnestly trusting of the most recent person he talked to, which is why he can talk to like Bernie Sanders and then sound really base the next day, and then he can talk to like an actual Yahtzee and then just say something horrible. But like I think people like this we need to reach out to. They're not necessarily bad faith actors, and even if he believes some things I don't agree with, I think that's the kind of person I could like have a conversation with and convince. You know, I don't know. It's I've seen people who are very bad faith, like who are militant in pushing certain agendas, and I just don't get that vibe. It's not a good place to get information. There's no vetting. There's only like this pure-hearted trust, which is bad, by the way. Like that fails the burden for like responsible adulthood. Let's be very clear on that. Yeah, if you're dyslexic, try audiobooks. Maybe there are ways to help dyslexia. I know there's certain fonts try to make it easier. I think it's a skill you can kind of learn and get better at, but yeah, you know, do what you got to do. I think you deserve to learn. That's what's really important. Books are just one medium. Thank you for subscribing. I'm gonna go for like 20 minutes max here. My throat is destroyed and I need some tea to break. But yeah, I'm happy to hang around. I guess maybe I should ask like the audience, like, is there anything, I don't know, what am I doing well? What am I doing poorly? Or like what do you want to see more of or less of? Lately I've been doing a lot to kind of reach out and target and question and call out like conservative policy. I think it's an easy layup. I don't think they're used to that in a coverage. I think there's a untapped niche there. Oh boy, chat just caught up a lot. Yes, know your audience is like super underrated. Oh gosh, yeah, yeah, Texas Beach is great. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, the anti woke stuff I think really needs to be studied. I think a lot of people on the left need to be a little more savvy about how like sometimes it just comes down to like hating white men, and there are some like white men who are cool with that. But like I understand that is kind of a direct attack on their ego, and they like that requires them to have enough self security in their own like ego and self based on other things like they have hobbies whatever to like to take that hit. But I understand it is a hit, and I think the basics of what a systemic issue is has not been explained at all. Like systemic issues are not and don't need to be and really shouldn't be about blame. Like a systemic issue, something like redlining, for example, I think it's easy to say like, hey, there were some old, really racist people in the past. We all know that. And they made it so only people of different colors could buy houses in different areas. And they let white people buy all the nice houses. And then if you weren't white, you had to buy the bad houses. And those were the only houses you could. And that meant the neighborhoods were like segregated. And that kept poor neighborhoods poor and good neighborhoods good. And that wasn't fair. And then there was lead paint in all the bad houses, which, impacts people's intelligence and health negatively and makes them more violent and prone to crime. And there are reasons for that. And even though the people who made those rules were dead, anyone could buy any house now, a lot of the times people like get the houses that their grandparents left to them, or their parents left to them, stuff like that. Or you have a community, you don't want to move far from your family, And so like these are things where like, hey, this is an issue. It's a real issue. It was like set up by bad people in the past for bad reasons. And I'm not blaming anyone now, but like this is a problem. It's not, I'm not blaming anyone. Like, we could fix this today. We could make neighborhoods better today for the people who still live there. Like there are ways to talk about these kinds of issues um, with like better framing, if that makes sense. And like being able to approach like really like even racist, sexist, ableist, like just like people who are like shitty on social issues, not as enemies per se, but as like collaborators in solving a problem, I think are way open to coming around and doing it. Like, hey, we could just like, this is an old problem that some bad people did for bad reasons. You and I can fix it right now. Oh gosh, yes, there was a debate about is Donald Trump fit for the job, or like has there been decline in his mental and physical health? And it was kind of like, I don't know, people agreed too much, so everyone's kind of like, yeah, he's like his physical health is kind of bad. We can't prove any like mental health things. Um, he's like very old and weak, and like mentally at seems to be pretty close to his best, which is not great, which is not very good anyway. But like that's not enough to like in, impeach him over anything or like invoke the 25th. So it was kind of boring. I don't know. Hey. But yeah, no, I think there are better ways to talk about social issues without just like giving up on it. I don't know. Like I frankly am willing to write off a lot of it as a skill diff. And I think it's very funny. There are a lot of people, especially like young leftists with colorful hair mostly, who are like, in the commune, I'm going to be the one to talk about intersectionalism and teach everyone that. And good for them. Even if they know a lot, which they usually don't actually know that much, that doesn't make you a good teacher, especially people who aren't already on your side. And I've seen several times where like progressives and leftists will shut down hard if someone just says like, yeah, I don't agree with you, or I don't believe that. Like there's not a response. There's like a taken for granted buy into the performativity, which is sad. I don't know. I think if you want to rep groups of people, even if they, they're marginal, like you have a good cause, and you don't get out of your safe space, you actually don't know how to be brave and stand up and fight for and advocate. Like you're not actually doing advocacy if it's just a circle jerk. Advocacy is not a circle jerk. If you can only talk about a topic to people who already agree with you, that's just a fan club. Advocacy is about pushing the line. Explainer videos. Gotcha, thank you. Yeah, I'll have to pick some things. It's just hard to be like properly informed, Um, enough. Yeah, like the burden of I never really got into doing this much before, like years ago when I was in space. Is because that burden to feel like you need to be an objective explainer and informer of all these different things is like so high that it's overwhelming. And a lot of content creators, especially in the online political debate space, don't actually care about anything, which is scary. Back in the day, years ago, I'll say it. A lot of panels form in like group chats that start days or sometimes hours before. And a lot of people used to agree. This was when Twitch politics was like big. A lot of people will agree to be on a panel without even knowing the topic. A lot of people will agree to a panel if they don't know the topic, but they know there's some bigger channel there that they could then like clout farm off of. A lot of people will also join a panel last minute if someone else couldn't show and replace them. And then a lot of those people will lie and pretend to know and have known a lot about this topic, even if for a fact they did not know what the topic even was until 5 minutes before. And they weren't chosen for their expertise, but just to be like personalities to fill seats, which is bad. Always question like, what's this information coming from? A lot of what I can do as like a creator on TikTok and YouTube is like honestly, and I might start doing this, especially because TikTok has a built-in TikTok shop. I want to read books more. I might do streams where like I read books, or I might like try start listening to books and then do a stream where I just kind of recite back like what I learned from those chapters, because it's hard. Like to actually know what you're talking about requires a full education, which is not a burden anyone should have. But like, there's I think a lot of facades of information, which is very scary. I spent all day for this debate, even though it was like very short, like looking up news articles. I have a bunch. Like Trump's like chronic Venus thing here, you know. Like I found articles about all of this. I thought it was important. Thank you for the $5. 55. Nice name. So yeah, like a lot of people fake it till they make it. I try to research, but I know like thing. And a lot of ways, if I want to debate frequently, in the same way a lot of book talkers lie about reading, if you debate on like wildly different topics all the time and people like claim to know, they don't. Like there's not enough time to read that much or learn that much. I may do more debates because I know some about general stuff, and also I want to do it more Socratically, I guess. Like I want to ask people more, ask questions more. You can always ask questions, and then see like how that works, like what people know or don't know. Like put the burden on them rather than on myself to be an informed authority. And I think I could actually do a lot of that. But yeah, like no, I felt like bad. Like I didn't want to get into it. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is how this works. It's just all like a lot of people are like bad faith or don't agree. Like a lot of leftists say a lot of slurs behind closed doors. A lot of slurs. They're not good people. Some of them are complete like work, but they're all like that space collapsed for good reason because they didn't actually care. Um, so yeah, like I try to do research and stuff to the extent that I can, but I think if I like do things more Socratically, I can ethically do it. But yeah, to the extent of like needing to feel informed and everything, it felt like such a burden I was putting upon myself that I was like, I can't do this. I couldn't, I wasn't cut out for it. And then also the kind of like disgust of learning. Like meanwhile, like while I'm feeling so guilt ridden about how can I do enough and learn enough to like, I feel like a fraud, like an imposter, and then other people just lie or like don't care at all, or it's all a front. I think a lot of leftists also like they've made very clear over the years like there have been scandals and controversies. I don't know. It's more like Destiny has its baggage, but it's more kind of honest about it, and maybe even against legal advice sometimes does talk about it, and like tries to show receipts. So that stuff will sort of stuff out. Like I don't know. I don't want to talk about drama like that. Like, I don't really care. Let courts do what courts do. I don't know. Like facts and truth and justice, right? Like that's pretty good. I don't know. Thank you, someone, for the tip, the $25 tip. How am I not a socialist or commie? Well, I mean, I probably would label myself a socialist. Like, I've actually here's one other thing. When leftists like nag everyone about not knowing enough or doing enough, I actually started doing it. I've read theory. I've actually read the theory, the books. They're hard books. Just to learn like they're bullshitting and they never did. That I kind of became the woker when that happened. Um, Ordering Starbucks but asking for a different cup. And that's the thing too. Like, can we just like agree we're imperfect and then like choose some things that matter, and agree like not everyone's perfect and everything, but like just do more good stuff. Yeah, but so you can start identifying as like a socialist or whatever, and then as soon as you end up like saying like maybe we should, I don't know, do something. Maybe we should vote. Maybe we should at least support the people who are running for office, or like support the people who are voting for them. As soon as you advocate achieving any real things, every single political faction will start calling you a liberal, often derogatorily. And I realize you can. The sky's the limit. Okay, things feel so much more freeing when instead of trying to like constantly please the worst leftists you know by being like, no, I'm not liberal, I'm good. See, I'm one of the good ones, and like try to do more and like promise like I'll never do anything. I swear, I'll read more books. Like as soon as you stop trying to impress people who are just honestly like if you put a face to them like losers, because it's negging, like it's abusive relationship stuff. Pickup artists do the same thing to women. They're like, I bet you wouldn't do this. And as soon as you say whatever, I am proud to support universal health care or whatever, you know, like good thing. Like I support that anyway. I'm just gonna keep doing that. And you stop doing things out of an insecurity for what other people think, even if you hold all the same beliefs and virtues and actions, and let people call you whatever. Like it takes all the power out of their sails. I think a lot of leftists, the only power they have, and tragically, because they could do such good. Some of them set their eyes on utopia. The only power they have is like negging people to do less. And I got tired of trying to impress that. Thank you for subscribing, Marcus. But yeah, I think it's also important to draw a line around like what is actually significant here. Like if you were ordering Starbucks, I don't think that's going to change the world. Um, Whatever. I mean, you could do like we can do lots of good little things all the time if you want. If you were ordering Starbucks and asking in a different cup, what is the point? Who are you doing that for? Are you trying to be good enough for people who don't care about good things happening anyway? Because you've already done it, right? Like the rest is just aesthetics. And to me, like, that's a point where you're putting what people want of you above what you would do anyway. Like, what's the point there? Like, why are you trying to impress people who don't care? And it's toxic. It's just toxic. Huh. Let's see. Sorry, I just had to chat. I'm trying to figure out how to refresh the chat. I have read those books actually by Engels. Yeah, I read Marx. I read Engels. It's been years ago, but like, yeah, I read the books. Yes, I would like to stream on YouTube once my TikTok lives get going. I can't even stream on TikTok anymore for a while, but I would like to do both. Maybe appeal to different audiences a little bit. Um, yeah, the thing I'm gonna need to do eventually is like upgrade Streamlabs so I can stream to two places at once, which will cost some money a month. So I'm hoping I can, in the meantime, make enough VODs, make enough streams to hopefully earn some money. People have very generously done it. It's blown my mind that I can like afford the Streamlabs Pro subscription. Like that's what it's gonna go to, stuff like that. People that like my setup, I'm currently streaming on my laptop. So yeah, I have a Blue Yeti Nano as well set up right here, just off screen here. It's looks like this. So that's a pretty good microphone. I know it's not like fancy studio quality. So I don't know. I'd like to have a good enough setup as to be effective. A tie stream? You want me to get a tie? I don't know. How much does a tie cost? Like, here's the thing. Uh, I'm a woman, so like, I'm a lesbian. You know, I don't mind being like gender nonconforming in my fashion, but I've never like worn a tie. I don't know It's not really in fashion right now, you know. Sprite or Fanta? I like Fanta. I like orange soda more than lemon lime. Lemon lime is a bit generic. My favorite soda is like ginger beer. I've always liked ginger ale, and this might be a long COVID thing, but like I I like ginger beer. I don't know. I like spicy stuff. Once I started getting into management roles, like managing teams in my degree and like at work, um, I started getting addicted to like spicy food and caffeine. So like ginger has that sting. I like that sting. Sriracha has a sting. There's nothing wrong with liking Sprite. Yeah, talk about what gives me hope. Yeah, I'm trying to think if anything gives me hope politically right now. Oh yeah, Donald Trump, and this is like one awesome guy. He's with some newspaper. I forgot his name. Sorry, I'll look it up. He's awesome. He was with, maybe he got laid off from like a bunch of jobs left, some newspaper or something. He makes videos talking about how like Donald Trump is weak. He's too weak to rule as a president, so he's ruling like a king. And the fact that how like um every bad thing that's being done right now is being done through mostly executive orders or just like random agency acts that aren't allowed and don't hold up. And it gives me some faith that like, damn, there are some actually good guidelines and guardrails in the US government because bad things can happen but not for long. And at the end of the day, a lot of, not all, but a lot of the rules and people we have still have some belief in good things. And I think that's awesome. Right now, there's like not a lot of good that can happen just because of who has power, but not a lot of bad can actually happen too, which is good. And so there's like lots of this aesthetics of like really bad things happening all the time. But I think it's a storm that's passing. And I don't think it's as big or as scary as we think, as bad people want us to think it is. They want to look strong because they're not actually strong. And it's cool to see that kind of legacy. I love anthropology and art history and philosophy and all that kind of stuff, of this relation between people and the stuff we've built. And how, like, wow, people thought of stuff. Like, our government is complicated. It's made of a lot of people doing a lot of jobs. And a lot of rules written a long time ago by people who cared about something good. And I think it's cool to see that hold up to scrutiny. I don't do the hard drugs. I have lung issues already. Like, I struggle enough without putting more stuff into my system. I probably look like that because I just am wearing a suit. And the 80s and 90s, and even some of the 2000s, were built on people doing a lot of illegal things. Uh, thank you. Like, for example, Donald Trump. Thank you, Archangel771, for subscribing. Like, it's kind of wild, the way that that all happened. I think The West Wing, which is a phenomenal show that leftists with bad opinions have hated on. That's a litmus test, okay? The West Wing is one of the best shows of all time. Um, it wasn't the same after they made the showrunner leave because he kept exploiting substances. You know, like sometimes, like if there's ever a chance, we should just let someone cook. The West Wing was a award-winning drama for starting in like the last year or two of the 90s, running through like about 2007, 2008. It was about a hypothetical, like imaginary, fictional characters and stuff, Democratic presidential administration. So all the characters were like the president, the chief of staff, the press secretary, all those kinds of things. It ran for like 7 seasons, and it was about like the whole administration, like, which was cool. Kind of as like, what if we basically had a Democrat instead of George Bush? And it's really cool. It's really good. It's really well written. It's famous. It's like walk and talk camera shots are kind of popularized by that. And it's cool. And a lot of leftists hate on it because they're like, all the Obama staff thought that the world worked that way. That's why they got fooled by the Republicans. Like, no, like it was the point, if you're actually media literate, which Chapo Trap House fools are not, is that it was idealism. The premise of The West Wing, it's a totally realistic drama except for this premise that people actually cared about good and right ideas. And like we could actually have a conversation and move on the merits. Like the magic of actual discussion and discourse. And all the characters are like imperfect, but I think fundamentally good people trying their best. And it's really cool to see, you know, and there's something, I don't know, it captures what traditionally was the feel of what it was to be presidential, to like care about something higher and to strive for something greater that has been lost today because of Donald J. Trump. Young people tragically are growing up in a world where like their expectation of what the president is and does and what that can be and look like is so much lower. I mean, it's worth watching. Like it's crazy just to see that now it's become a time capsule period piece for what we always thought had to be. Like that's what it's like to be presidential. It's a fun, like great, like put on when you're falling asleep kind of drama. I'm in my late 20s. Yeah, like so if House of Cards is kind of like neutral evil, The West Wing is like lawful good. So it's worth a look. And I hope we can get there again. And that starts with like honestly rejecting the primary Republican strategy right now, which is normalization of pathetic weak things. It's sad. And it's worth calling out. Even for like the sake of average everyday Republican voters and like citizens, like, hey, the government used to be something good and greater and nice and like respectable. And I think like Republicans have always had that handle historically, right? Like it's like kind of old school like morality and idealism and like bravery kind of thing, where leftists were like the cool progressive young thing. And like we should bring it back. I think Democrats can have both things now because Republicans gave up on all of it. It's just the party of like hate and war, which is toxic. That gets engagement. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I want to fight for something good again, and like anything that's not good and respectable, challenge it, call it out. I'm gonna keep doing that. So I gotta end for the day. Unfortunately, my throat's getting sore, and I want to go to bed. But yeah, like we used to hold presidents to such a higher standard. Like it should be the best of us. Not that everyone's perfect, but like the president should be like this closest thing we have. The president should be like the big statue of Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial. Like if we could just come together and pick one person to like be the best of us and be like how we represent ourselves. It was so cool, such a cool idea, and we could have that back. In the short term, it might be Gavin Newsom though. We may just need a classic high school bully. I don't know. I'm not proud of it, but the best we have. That should always be the goal of the presidency. With that, I am going to sign off. Have a good night, everybody. If you go to shesrightshow.com, you can find links to my other socials on like my TikTok. It's mainly the only one right now. I need more TikTok followers so I can stream on TikTok and talk to random crazy people. Um, and also, I make a cool hat. If you want a cool hat, I ordered one, so that'll get here in a few days. And yeah, you also donate if you want, but no pressure. Times are tough. Look out for yourselves. Stay safe. Have a good night.